Hey guys, in this video I'll be ranking the genetics of some top open bodybuilders in a tier list. While I'm sure there are some that I may miss, I chose the top open competitors that either have been to the Olympia, won pro shows, or are genetic standouts. When I say genetics, I'm talking about things like structure or skeletal frame, muscle insertions, symmetry and proportions, and conditioning potential, though condition is complex and requires both genetics as well as hard work to truly become elite. For the categories in this tier list, S plus is going to be for those absolute genetic standouts, those with barely any flaws and near ideal characteristics. S tier is for those who may have had, some discernible genetic flaws, but are minor when it comes to the impact. A tier is for those with one key major flaw, but still relatively solid genetics everywhere else. B tier is for multiple genetic issues that, in my opinion, would hinder a competitor's potential, and C tier is for those who have relatively poor genetics, but are still top competitors nonetheless. First off, we've got William Bonak. He is one of the most accomplished and hardworking bodybuilders of the last decade and has pushed his physique to the absolute limit. Genetically, he's always had crazy round muscle bellies in the arms. His biceps and triceps used to be incredibly full and almost balloonish, and his legs and back were among the best in the game at his all-time best. The kind of shape and insertions he had in these areas are something you must be gifted with, but structurally, Bonak has always been limited. He's compact with a short, blockier frame and a naturally wider waist that was, noticeable even earlier in his career. His bone structure doesn't allow for that wide, open, flowing look that guys like Samson or Brandon can achieve upstairs, and some may point to his back, which has shown some signs of atrophy in recent times, but that is more injury than genetics. That wide waist and limited structure are exactly why I would land him in A tier. Not quite elite, but still well above average in terms of genetics. You do not build a physique like his without some sort of genetic gifts. Next up is Ren Grimes, and he might not be the biggest guy in the open, but genetically he has some of the most beautiful and ideal proportions. His structure is near perfect, wide shoulders, tight waist, long limbs, and his muscle insertions in the chest, delts, quads, and especially the back and hamstrings are incredibly aesthetic. He has that classic look that flows naturally, and when he's in shape it really comes together nicely. That said, the one glaring weakness would be the arms. They lack peak, fullness, and that deep intra-arm separation that you see in a competitor like Akeem Williams, Nick Walker's well, or the great all-time best Phil Heath. That missing element prevents his physique from having that complete, refined look in the arms and in the front shots. And while he does need to still add more overall size to be competitive, I see that more as a work ethic or training intensity issue rather than a strict genetic limitation. Because of his nearly flawless structure and muscle shape, aside from the arms, he would belong in S tier. The potential is absolutely there, and according to guys like Jay Cutler, he could win the Mr. Olympia, but he really just has to bring that potential out. Now let's talk about Nick Walker. This one might be a little controversial, but from a purely genetic standpoint, Nick is not the most blessed. He's definitely gifted in some key areas. His arms are world class, maybe some of the best we've ever seen in terms of total arm development, and his back and hamstrings are both strong points. He also has that grainy skin texture that not everyone can achieve, which helps him look even harder and drier on stage. But when we look at his structure, there are some clear limitations. His quads, while much improved over the years, lack ideal sweep and tend to look a little bit stubby, especially from the front. His waist is incredibly wide, which throws off his proportions and makes his legs look smaller than they truly are. His chest is also genetically weak, shallow in terms of insertions, and it leaves it looking a bit underwhelming in poses like the side chest, or even the most muscular, where his arms and delts completely take over. On top of that, his clavicles are not the widest, which further exaggerates the wide waist and hurts his overall flow. This is a guy who's clearly outworked most of his field, but genetically he's dealing with multiple structural disadvantages, so I would put him in B tier. Whether that's enough to win the Olympia one day remains to be seen, though I think he actually could do it, depending on what the judges prefer. Next up is Raphael Brandeo. This is one of the most genetically gifted physiques in the open right now, and honestly, he's as close to flawless as it gets. He's got beautiful proportions, perfect symmetry, and a very clean structure, wide shoulders, tight waist, and longer limbs that give him a naturally aesthetic flow. His muscle insertions are spot on, and there are no real weak points that stand out in his physique. That said, he doesn't really have any overly dominant body parts, but the balance he brings is what makes him so special. It's definitely rare to see someone this complete without a single glaring flaw. Sure, he may not have the best arms of all time, or even currently, or the best ab genetics, but everything works extremely well when it comes to his total package. Now, one area that people question a lot is his conditioning. He's never really come in 100%, but that seems to be more about effort and prep rather than a genetic issue like thick skin or stubborn fat. With his structure, shape, and overall balance, Raphael is a easy pick for S+ tier. That said, if you guys are enjoying the video so far, a like and sub would be awesome, as it helps out the channel tremendously and gives me good feedback on what you guys want to see on the channel. Now let's take a look at Carlos Thomas Jr. He's one of the most hyped newcomers in the open class, and from a muscular standpoint, it's very easy to see why. His arms and legs are absolutely freaky, some of the best and roundest on stage right now. He's got a small waist structurally speaking, and overall he carries a ton of size on a very dense and compact frame. But genetically there are a few red flags. His chest has unusual insertions that gives it an awkward split down the middle, his abs have a less than ideal layout, and his back insertions are not the cleanest of all time. On top of that, he deals with ulcerative colitis, which could potentially impact his digestion and his ability to get fully shredded, though how much of that is genetic versus health related is hard to say because I'm not a medical professional. Still, his biggest weakness is condition, not the shape or size or mass. And while the insertions are kind of visible flaws, they are not deal breakers in my opinion. With that considered, I would have Carlos landing in A tier, very, very genetically gifted, but not without any flaws. Here's Hunter Labrada, and honestly, from a genetic standpoint, there are no major flaws. He is a very well-rounded bodybuilder with solid proportions and balance everywhere. His legs are complete, great quad sweep, deep hamstrings that are corded and well inserted, and even well-developed calves, which is very rare. His arms are also very seriously underrated, with a full round look, especially in the biceps, and from the side the triceps have that incredible striation and detail that looks insane, and overall he's very structurally strong as well, wide enough in the shoulders and a tight waist when he's on. The big knock, though, in my opinion, has been his midsection in recent years at least, which in the past used to be under control but started to get a bit blurry and distended recently. From what I've heard, that may be tied to drinking a large portion of his meals, which could have impacted digestion and caused some sort of inflammation. His back is another area that took a lot of time to come up. It's not really shallow in terms of insertions, but it's been a bit stubborn to grow. Still, when you add it all up, Hunter has no glaring genetic limitations, just a few challenges he's had to manage. He's a clear S-tier bodybuilder in my opinion, with all of the tools to win shows, and he might be one of the most underrated guys out there right now. Let's move on to Jon Jwitt. He's a guy who's definitely earned respect in both 212 and open, but from a genetic standpoint, he's working with a lot of limitations. His structure is very compact, and his arms are on the shorter side, but to his credit, the insertions are pretty strong. His biceps have a nice peak, his triceps sweep pretty well, and his overall balance there is solid. Earlier in his career, his aesthetics were definitely much sharper, but as he added size, the midsection got a little bit wider, and the abs have lost a little bit of that deep separation. His legs are decent as well, quad insertions are okay, but not super dramatic, and while his hamstrings and glutes are well developed, the calves could be a little bit better. Overall, in my opinion, he does not have a glaring flaw, but there's also nothing to write home about either. He's made the most of what he has and transitioned into the open division very successfully, which is impressive in its own right. Still, when it comes to raw genetics, I would have him in B tier. A super hard worker and a genuine competitor, but definitely genetically limited in my own opinion. Now we've got a pretty heavy hitter, Andrew Jacked. Frontally, he's just about perfect. He's got one of the best midsections in the entire division and of all time. Tight, deeply cut, naturally aesthetic, and great insertions. His muscle bellies are ridiculous as well, especially in the chest and arms, and his quads have that ideal sweep and outer flare when he's not on the flatter side. His lats explode out wide frontally, giving him a dramatic V-taper even in the relaxed poses. Now, some people do like to critique his side and back poses, but genetically the insertions are not the issue. His glutes have a freaky shape, almost like a smaller version of Ronnie's in terms of structure, obviously not in condition or size though, and his hamstrings have decent shape as well, just lacking in size and condition again. His calves and forearms do have some pretty high insertions, but those areas do not carry much weight in today's judging, and they really do not hold him back. The fact that he's shown up back-to-back at the Olympia in 2023 and 2024, not at his best, and still placed top 5, shows just how much his genetics are carrying him. I would have him in S+ tier for raw genetics, but if he tightens up his condition and brings up those hamstrings, he truly has everything he needs to become Mr. Olympia. That said, after all this time hoping and praying for him to nail it, the chances of it happening now look slimmer and slimmer. Moving on, we have Derek Lunsford. Despite all the criticism he gets online, there's no denying the guy is genetically gifted. He may be even higher than you expect. Yes, he does have a few flaws though. The biceps don't have much peak, and there's not a lot of separation in the front of the arms. His chest doesn't have that deep strided look, and his outer quads can look a bit flat compared to the rest of his body. But let's not ignore what he brings to the table. His back is the best in the game right now, thick, wide, and very detailed, and it also holds up historically. His glutes are ridiculously conditioned, with deep visible lines that come from insanely thin skin in that area, which is genetic in my opinion. On top of that, his structure is wild. Tiny waist, broad shoulders, and a picture-perfect X-frame. In my opinion, a lot of the criticism that he gets came from how quickly he added size after moving up from 212, which did amplify some of those flaws. But if you go back and look at his frame in the 212, it's pretty obvious how genetically gifted he really is. The flaws are there and they matter. I'm not trying to say that they don't, but overall Derek is a strong S-tier competitor. Definitely a true genetic standout, but again, not 100% perfect. Moving on, we've got Behrouz Tobani, who just took the win at the 2025 Dubai Pro. That show really highlighted what makes him stand out: crazy condition, deep striations, and very sharp muscle detail, especially in the chest, glutes, delts, and back. Genetically, his insertions in the back, chest, and shoulders are excellent, and his arms are very solid as well, with peaked biceps and full triceps. But he does have some clear flaws. His ab insertions are more of a 4-pack, and also aren't really that symmetrical, which throws off the aesthetics of his midsection despite it being on the smaller side. His quads, especially from the front, are a serious weak point. There's almost no sweep, and while his proportions and structure help soften the blow, it's still very noticeable. For that reason, I would have Behrouz in A tier, gifted in some key areas, but also held back by some visible imbalances. With how hard he works and the kind of condition he brings, he's always going to be a threat on show day, but he will also be limited by those imbalances. Next up is good Veto, and he's easily one of the most genetically freakish athletes in the open division right now. His structure is straight up ridiculous: wide clavicles, tight waist, long limbs, and his overall shape is almost like Derek Lunsford, just without the elite back. But elsewhere, he is arguably better. His arms are fuller, his legs are some of the most complete from every angle, and his super thin skin gives him deep detail across nearly every muscle group. His back insertions are actually fine, it's more about him needing more size there, not insertions. Additionally, his X-frame is one of the best in the sport, and while some might point to the slightly lacking chest detail, it's honestly negligible when you compare it to everything else that he's got going for him. That level of structure, shape, and muscle belly fullness puts him firmly in the S+ tier. As he fills out his frame more and more, and nails his conditioning consistently, it's only a matter of time before he's battling for major titles and placing extremely highly at the Mr. Olympia level. Here we've got Akeem Williams, a guy known for insane size and underrated shape when he's at his best. Genetically, he's working with some standout tools. His biceps are among the best in the game, with rare striations that actually separate the heads, and his triceps look great from the front. His legs are solid as well, with good quad insertions and overall shape from every angle. Structurally, he's got pretty wide clavicles, balanced limb proportions, and a strong X frame that gives him a rather powerful silhouette. That said, the biggest issue for him lies in the back. His lat insertions were always on the higher side, which limited the visual width and thickness, and over time his lower lats have noticeably atrophied, and though that's more of a wear and tear issue, it still compounds a genetic weak point. You could also nitpick slightly at the asymmetrical ab insertions, but in my opinion it's not really a huge deal on his physique. Overall, he's got a lot going for him, but that back structure holds him back enough to place him in A tier. When he's on though, Akeem is one of the freakiest guys out there, and does not get enough credit, though from behind he basically loses both back poses to almost anyone, which again is why I think he would land in that A tier. Up next is Rubio Moscara, one of the most outrageous genetic freaks we've seen in a long time. When it comes to total leg development, you know who to call, as he might already be in the all-time great conversation. His quads are massive with amazing insertions, and somehow his calves actually match up, which is almost unheard of at the level of size that he has, I guess. His arms also have solid shape, with very nicely peaked biceps and full triceps. His chest is huge and round, and his back has a good structure with nice insertions. Muscularity-wise, he's basically loaded from every angle. That said, structurally, he's a bit strange. Maybe strange is a harsh word, but he's extremely wide in the upper body, but his arms are a bit stubby, and his waist is very wide, which, all of these things considered, can kind of throw off his proportions. Still, these are minor flaws compared to how much muscle he has on his frame. Genetically, though, I think he sits in S tier, just one step below perfection, mostly due to that wider waist and slightly off flow. The biggest issue he has is not genetics, though, it's that he hasn't shown the work ethic or drive to get in top tier condition. If he ever locks in during, his prep and brings next level detail, he's going to be a serious threat to anyone thanks to his crazy genetics and insane size. Next up is Jon Delarosa, a veteran of the open division with a physique that's always looked very solid, but when you break it down genetically, there are some key limitations. Structurally speaking, he's on the narrower side, with clavicles that don't really give him that wide, commanding look. His arms are full and decently separated from the side, but from the front there's barely any intra-arm separation, which in my opinion downplays his look in shots like the front double. His ab insertions are also a bit lackluster, and don't add much to his frontal poses, and his quads, while pretty big, lack that outward sweep that brings shape to the lower body. His back insertions are actually rather solid, and give him a strong look from behind, but even there he's lacking the sheer size to match the rest of the lineup, though that's more of a developmental issue rather than genetics. With his structure and lack of standout features, I would have Jon in B tier. Still, he's put together a very respectable physique and stayed competitive for years, which says a lot about how well he's worked with what he has. Now we've got Quinton Aria, one of the most aesthetically gifted competitors in the open division right now. Genetically, he's working with near-perfect insertions across the board. Nothing looks awkward, everything flows, and his structure is next level. He's tall, has wide clavicles, a small waist, long flowing limbs, and a very impressive X-frame that makes his physique pop even in relaxed poses. His shape is very clean, balanced, and just screams classic with an open-sized frame. The main issue, though, he's faced so far is putting on enough size to fill out that massive frame, and that's really just a byproduct of being so tall. When he's on, he brings very solid condition and looks every bit like a future top-tier contender. Because of his structure, shape, insertions, and overall aesthetic presence, I would have Quinton without any doubt in S+ tier. With more muscle maturity and time, he could really be a real problem for any Olympia stage. Next up is Martin Fitzwater, a very complete newer competitor at the top level right now. Genetically, he's got a lot going for him. His legs are among the best in the game today, with crazy sweep, thickness, and balance. His back insertions are excellent as well, and give him that dense, rounded look, almost like a mini Phil Heath from behind. Structurally speaking, he's really well put together as well. His clavicles aren't the widest ever, but they definitely are above average. He has ideal limb proportions, and when he hits a vacuum, the waist basically disappears. The only real knock, in my opinion, has got to be the lack of arm separation frontally. His arms are big and full, but the detail really isn't there between the biceps and triceps. Outside of that, though, Martin checks almost everything and earns a very solid spot in S tier. With the progress that he's been making over the years, he's someone to keep an eye out on as a future Mr. Olympia champion. Up next is Brett Wilkin, Martin Fitzwater's training partner and a guy who's often overlooked when it comes to genetic potential, but honestly he deserves a lot more credit. His physique has always been extremely balanced, front to back, top to bottom. His structure is solid with good proportions and a tight waist, and he's got some of the best ab insertions in the game. Everything flows well, and there are no real weaknesses in my opinion when it comes to shape or insertions. Sure, he's not the widest guy out there, his arms are not the most massive or the best inserted, and his quads don't have the craziest sweep, but none of those are really deal breakers. His condition is razor sharp thanks to his paper-thin skin, and when you look at his physique from the side or back, the proportions hold up extremely well. Genetically, I would have Brett right alongside his training partner in the S tier. Nothing stands out as elite, but he has no glaring flaws either. He kind of reminds me a bit of Raphael Brandeo with just, less dramatic lines, but the same type of clean, complete physique that the judges reward when it's completely dialed in. Now we've got James Hollingshead, and this one's tough because this guy clearly trains hard and carries a lot of muscle, but genetically he's definitely working with a lot of limitations. His structure is narrow for one, which immediately hurts his ability to create that wide, dominant silhouette. His midsection also is not doing him any favors, the ab insertions are messy, and the overall shape lacks that clean, aesthetic look. His arms are a weakness as well, both in shape and detail, and his delts don't have that round, capped look that helps balance out his upper body. His back insertions are also pretty underwhelming, and that said, his legs are actually pretty solid, great size and decent shape, and his chest is a strong point as well. Still, the structural issues and the lack of standout insertions would place him firmly and unfortunately in C tier. He's a huge, hardworking bodybuilder who's earned some success through sheer effort, but genetically he's just not built to contend with, the top tier guys on an Olympia stage. Next up is Brandon Curry, one of the most impressive upper body physiques we've ever seen. His structure in the top half is simply beautiful, wide clavicles, tiny waist, full round muscle bellies everywhere, from the chest to the arms to the delts and even the back. His insertions up top are near perfect, and when he hits a front double, most muscular, or rear double, it's hard to find anyone who can match that level of shape. But once you move downstairs, the flaws really start to come in. His quad insertions simply do not match the rest of his body. They lack that sweeping outer shape that completes a tremendous X-frame. His hamstrings and glutes have decent insertions, but they are definitely underdeveloped relative to his upper body, and this creates an imbalance that's definitely hard to ignore in the side and rear poses. If we're judging this purely on upper body alone, he would be S+ all day, but when you factor in leg structure and overall balance, Brandon would sit in S tier. Still one of the most aesthetic guys to ever win the Mr. Olympia, and that upper body is nothing short of iconic, but in today's day and age, without the legs, it's definitely an S tier physique, relative to all the other top guys, that is. Moving on, we have Tonio Burton, and he's definitely one of the more interesting physiques in the open division right now. He's got a lot of strong points. His quads are super full and round, with great proportion and shape, and his back insertions are amazing with a lot of detail as well. His arms are nicely developed, and his conditioning is always sharp, with thin skin and deep cuts across mostly every body part. But there are a few strange flaws that hold him back from a higher tier in my own opinion. His abs, while symmetrical in insertion, have an unsightly split down the center and a bit of midsection protrusion that makes it more noticeable. His chest also has a minor split that only stands out if you're really looking for it, but it's definitely there. On top of that, his torso is a bit elongated, which throws off the overall flow of his physique in both front and side poses. He's definitely close to S tier, but those small structural quirks and proportional issues would land him in A tier. That said, I could see an argument for S tier, and I do think he's closer to S than he is to the middle of A, but that's my own opinion. Now we have Samson Dauda, one of the most gifted and complete physiques in modern bodybuilding. Structurally, he's elite, massive frame, long limbs, wide clavicles, and a naturally small waist that gives him one of the best X frames on stage right now. His muscle bellies are full and round just about everywhere, quads, delts, arms, chest, and his flow from one body part to the next is incredible. He also has one of the best silhouettes in the game. Even just standing relaxed, he looks cartoonish. Although his arms are not the best in terms of condition, the insertions are decent enough, and his overall shape and proportions help minimize it as a weakness. His conditioning as well has improved dramatically over the last couple of years, and now that he's nailing it more consistently, his full potential is really starting to show. Genetically, Samson fits right into the S+ tier. He's got structure, shape, balance, and the ability to hold mass without losing flow. With the improvements he's made recently, he's already proven he can go toe-to-toe with nearly anyone in the world. Here we have Hottie Chupin, a really hard worker and a former Mr. Olympia. Genetically, he's got some standout features, but also a few big limitations. His clavicle width is impressive for his height, and his lats are wide and well inserted, which helps his V-taper. His chest is dense and striated, and his midsection is actually one of his best features. Tight waist, exceptional ribcage, when it comes to the vacuum shape at least, and deep symmetrical ab insertions, with similar traits in the serratus and obliques. But his proportions are undeniably compact. He has stubbier limbs, and the insertions in both the biceps and triceps are a bit shorter, which makes his arms look a bit awkward and underwhelming. His quads are thick and grainy, but again, the proportions make them appear a bit blocky. Despite these flaws, he's an A tier because genetically he still has some elite attributes, especially the midsection and upper body width. And while his structure is far from ideal, his work ethic and freaky condition allowed him to overcome a lot of that and win at the highest level. Second to last is Michael Kriso, a guy with a lot of freaky muscle detail, some of the best in the sport actually. His skin is paper thin to say the least, and that allows every single body part, arms, delts, quads, and even the calves and forearms to show insane separation and grainy detail that most guys cannot replicate. When it comes to insertions, he's very impressive across the board. His arms and shoulders are amazing, his chest is full and round, and his quads have that clean outward flare. Even his back, while often criticized in size, isn't structurally bad. The issue there likely stems more from a long-term shoulder injury that impacted his training rather than from poor genetic insertion. Now, the big red flag has got to be that midsection. Genetically, his abs have always been poor, and in recent years, his waist has widened considerably. While it might have not really started as a huge flaw, it's definitely become one, likely due to rapid size gain over time and lack of midsection control during posing, but still, it's definitely influenced by genetics. That midsection brings him down to A tier, because even with all of his other gifts, it's something that may never ever be fully corrected. The back and posing obviously need more work too, but if he ever pulls it all together, he could definitely be a major threat. Rounding out this list is Nathan Dasha. He's a guy with a unique structure, long torso, odd proportions, but also some really solid genetic strengths. His upper body width, for one, is excellent, and when his arms were fully healthy when he was younger, he had some of the best biceps in the game. His quads, especially earlier in his career, had great insertions and shape, and even now they look okay. His abs are nicely inserted as well, even though the long torso makes the midsection look a bit weird. Where things start to fall off, though, is the back. His lat insertions are alright, but definitely not anything to write home about, and they limit the impact of his back poses. His hamstrings and glutes have always lagged behind in size and detail, and at this point it seems more like a genetic issue rather than something he simply has not trained hard enough. The insertions back there aren't the problem, it's really that the muscle doesn't seem to respond the way the rest of his physique has. All things considered, I would have Nathan in A tier, some great attributes and impressive development, but also a few genetic barriers that likely capped his ultimate ceiling. Still, he's had a very strong career, and clearly got the most out of what he was given. Well guys, that about does it for this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you agreed or not, and remember, this is really my opinion. With that all being said, I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.